Hello, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Wendy Fracchia, and I am the Operations Group Manager for Morris Murdock Escorted Tours. We are the Escorted Group Division of Morris Columbus Travel, which is the largest privately owned travel agency company in the Western U.S. We've been in business for over 65 years, something we're very proud about. And we are, again, excited to have you share some time with us today. As I said, we are the Escorted Tour Division of Morris Columbus. And with our 65 years experience, a lot of people are familiar with the name Morris Murdock Escorted Tours because of the name Murdock. And if you're watching this webinar, chances are you are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That is one of the main things that people know us for. That name Murdock, we know, sent most of you on your missions at some point. So when we merged with Columbus Travel, they really felt strongly that we were to keep our name because Morris Murdock Escorted Tours does have such a strong reputation. Besides our experience and integrity, we have been doing these tours the longest, and we have got amazing relationships with our vendors and proven itineraries that make going with groups the best experience possible. So enough about that. I'm just obviously very proud of our products, and especially with our tour leaders that we have that take our clients, you, out to these amazing sacred spots to make your learning go to a deeper level. Even if you have seen the church history sites before, now that we have got access that we've never had in the history of the church to places like Kirtland and the Red Brick Store and the Smiths' homes, there's so many fantastic things. So speaking of the Smiths, we are so excited to be joined today by Mick and Diane Smith. They have been teaching and traveling to the church history sites for so many years. And we are doing this amazing tour with them in May that is called Temples of the Restoration. And one of the things about this specific tour when we are talking with the Smiths is how exciting it is that temples are not just with walls. We have got many destinations that are sacred and temple sites, but they don't have walls. So that's one of the focuses of this tour. So I am going to let Mick and Diane introduce themselves to you, give you a little background on them, and maybe you guys can even share something that you love about sharing your testimonies and church histories on these sacred sites.
Thanks so much, Wendy. It is great to be part of this webinar today. Maybe you can't recognize me from the picture because, there my glasses are off. So there I've put my glasses back on so I can actually see.
The same.
Diane's the exact same. Yeah, so now you can recognize us with our glasses on in case we have them off. What we love about the Temples of the Restoration Church History Tour and what we're so excited about on this, first off, Diane and I have been involved in seminary, church education. Diane taught seminary for 6 years, an early morning seminary teacher. I started out in seminary up in Idaho Falls, then went to Texas as an institute director, up to Nebraska as an institute director, and then back here to Utah as seminary, and finally finished up my career at BYU on a BYU rotation for a couple of years in church history in the ancient scriptures. So with that in mind, the background we started teaching EFY probably about 2002 maybe. Sometime around there, did EFY as session directors and teachers for 18 years. And then it became FSY. And so we did that. I did, the church Know Your Religion programs for quite a few years, symposiums at BYU for quite a few years. And then we led tours for 5 years with BYU Travel years ago. And we love the temples within and without spires. We love that idea because each of these places on this first screen, May 21st to the 30th, Palmyra and Fayette. I mean, the Sacred Grove is a temple without spires. Any thoughts that you have as far as just background or family? I didn't introduce your family.
Yes, we have 7 children, 33 grandchildren, a few more coming, I guess, in the next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have a bus full.
We have to take our own tour. We could fill the
I
bus.
know, that would be fun. We should do that. But we lived in Nebraska for 9 years, and so we were close to many of the church history sites and got to do many of those things with our family, as well as different opportunities through Seminary and Institute to be in those sacred places. I have for a long time, well, from my earliest memory, just loved the story of the first vision and Joseph Smith. That was the first year of seminary. What for me was church doctrine and covenants and church history, and I love this area. As I read about it, I always desired to go to these spots because I loved and believed the story. And so when we've had these opportunities to be in those spots, I love those spots. It's hard to describe. You can read about it and you don't have to go to those spots, but when you do, it just becomes more a part of who you are, and you understand the great people who the people of the Restoration, these great men and women, Joseph Smith, Emma Smith, Lucy Mack Smith, Hiram Smith, so many of them that we'll talk about a little bit, the experiences they had with first the experience that Joseph Smith had, but then others who saw angels. And we know so many places, sacred grounds on any of these sites. It's not just specifically the temples that's been mentioned. It's the grounds in so many locations, and some maybe even smaller than what we might think, but just it's an amazing time.
One of the things that I love about what
Amazing
Diane
place.
had just said also, Wendy, as far as just that introduction, we've had the opportunity to be able to take some of our kids. We had taken them as kind of an assistant even at one point. So they've been to some of these places too. But there's a major difference there also. This is what we love about the tours. We love being there with our families because it's just enjoying the sacredness of the locations and things like that. But it's also incredible. For example, when we went on the church history tours before, we'd have different people that would share different thoughts and experiences or things that they may have had in their life. And it just kind of enhanced even more so having this extended family type situation. So that's one of the things that we love about leading the tours, is having that opportunity to get to know more people, meet them, experience them. And some of those friendships now have continued through the years.
Yeah, and one of them on one of the tours, we had a man whose great-great-grandfather was Hiram Smith. And I think because of the stories he shared with us on the tour and with everyone on the bus, I have gained an even greater appreciation for Hiram and the great man he was as he stood beside the side of his brother in every aspect.
So
I love that you involve the tour members, and that lets them even, experience it in greater depths as well.
No, thank you. Thank you, Wendy. As we go through this, and I'll kind of go through some of these different things as far as right here at the very first, we see the places that we're going to go. And what I love about these places is, first off, if we have opportunities to go to the temples, we will do everything we can to go to the temples, to participate in endowment session or sealing or initiatory, whatever, even baptism for the dead. And great opportunity to be able to go to these places. Palmyra and Fayette. Well, Palmyra, you have a temple there. So looking at the dates, May 20th through the 30th during that time, Palmyra has the temple. And if we can, we'll do that. But then you also have, like I said at the very first, the Sacred Grove, the Joseph Smith home, each of these places that are right there, Fayette, the organization of the church, and then Susquehanna, and there's no temple there, and yet there is the temple as you stand down by the river, the Susquehanna River. Niagara Falls, onto Kirtland, Independence, Liberty, Far West, Adamondiaman, Nauvoo. Even as you read those places, you go, okay, there are temples there, but realistically, the sacredness of the places, just because the walls are there or are not there, does not take away the experience and the sweetness of the experience that you can have.
Well, and talking about the first vision and also the Smith family home, where the appearances of Moroni to Joseph Smith in his room, and to stand in that room and experience that is amazing. Also, the Hill Cumorah, it's different now than what it was. We've been there when we've been to the pageant, but I'm excited to go where we get to just go and be on that hill, because when you think about it, the sacredness of that site, that Moroni places the plates in the ground. I don't know if you've seen that little video where he's placing it in, and on the other side, then Joseph Smith is pulling it out. And I think, wow, what a sacred, incredible spot that is. And I'm not sure we always think about that as it is, and it is. It's amazing.
It's interesting. One last thing, Wendy, and then we'll go through some of the slides there. Is sometimes we look at it and go, oh, I wish I could have gone during during pageant time, and we've been there during pageant and not during pageant. It's wonderful to be there during the pageant and to see the pageants, but now that the pageants are no longer there, it's kind of like you have more of an opportunity to experience just the sweet spiritual experience by yourself. Walking in the sacred grove without a whole bunch of people there, or walking on the Hill Cumorah without thousands of people, and that's not minimizing what we experience.
No, but even the Grandin building, we'll have more time and not feel maybe as rushed. Yeah, we'll be able to spend some time there and really soak in that experience of the.
Well, I think that's so true. Even just what you were saying during the pageant, when the pageant was there in July, it was so busy. But one of the things that we love about the time frame on the tour that you're going this year in May is that this is even before the main rush of the Latter-day Saints are coming to visit a lot of the things. Schools are just getting out. Kids are getting ready to leave on missions. There's just an opportunity to see this in the end of spring, where it's still so green and the flowers, the weather is crisp, and it's you will just get a little more privacy in some of the areas than people will even later in the year. So I think that's a unique opportunity specific about this tour.
That is a great point, Wendy. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say that if you hadn't have. And so with that in mind, we'll kind of go through some of the days.
Yes, I can't wait to get into this.
So the first thing is, after we fly into Rochester and we have a chance to go to Palmyra, then this screen here that you see, May 22nd, and you can read obviously through that, but this is one of the things we love about Palmyra. You see it bolded, the Sacred Grove, without question. The Sacred Grove there's need no more explanation. Then the restored Joseph Smith home and farm. And this is not every one of the places that we can go, but the Smith home where Moroni first appeared, like Diane said, E.B. Grandin building. Each of these places where she talked about just have sweet, sacred experiences just because you think of the magnitude of what took place.
Well, and even, the Peter Whitmore farm with organization of the church there, but something else that happened that I think it's becoming more that people know about. This was about the Whitmore family. They were heavily involved. That's Joseph and Emma were staying with them during that time period. And it was a very, very busy time. Mary Whitmore, the mother, was very busy with all these extra guests coming and going. And it was a little burdensome. But there's a story that says one evening after a long day's work, she went to the barn to milk the cows and met a stranger who showed her a bundle of plates and turned the leaves of the book of plates over, leaf after leaf, promising Mary that she should be blessed if she were patient and faithful in bearing her burden a little longer. I love that story because she didn't ask for that. This was an experience that helped her. It carried her through, maybe on those hardest days. But I love that we have this faithful mother and wife and disciple.
What I really love also, Wendy, about that is that, like she said, as Diane just read, she had a sweet experience that helped her carry the burden a little bit longer, that helped her go through that. And I think sometimes I've invited my seminary students through the years when I had them, I'd say each of us have to have kind of our own Sacred Grove experience. That didn't mean that we had to go to the Sacred Grove, but it's that time in life where we know this is my relationship with Heavenly Father. This is the time or the experience or the thing that just helps me know there's a God in heaven who knows me. He loves me, and we kind of hold on to those moments in time whenever some of those different challenges come. So thanks for sharing that, Diane.
No, absolutely. And you know what? Right now, we're just at the very beginning of our Come Follow Me lessons in the D&C, and we're hearing about so much of these early days. And it's actually really exciting for me to listen to you talk about this as we're studying it.
Thanks, Wendy. We also, the last thing here is we're hopeful that if everything works out, that people will be able to schedule a time to go to the Palmyra Temple. We're hopeful to get things worked out either with the bus service or whatever. I'm not sure how many Ubers there are in Fayette or Palmyra in New York, But anyway, that's one of the things too that
we do everything that we can. And, you know, the hard thing is that Palmyra is also a small temple for the community. And why they are used to getting groups there, they are not, you know, set up necessarily for groups always to come in and take over a session. So that's also something we're always very sensitive about.
No, and thank you, because I completely agree there. So I don't know. We'll do everything we can. Without question, we will go up on the temple site and take that time there, you know.
I think that stained glass, in the baptistry is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, it's just incredibly beautiful. And here on the next slide, staying there, you see each of the things that we've talked about. I love the picture of the. It's kind of funny as I'm looking on my screen and seeing, and I'm pointing to all of you to see the picture of the hill Cumorah. But we see on the west side there, and I don't see any monument as far as to where he drew the plates out of the ground, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, who was supposed to make that spot?
Yeah, I'll talk to the people in the know and see if they can put a little monument there for us to know.
Thank you. I need an X marks the spot.
Oh, there we go. We'll take some. Never mind. I was going to say we could take some spray paint and put this is the spot and put a big X on the side of the hill. But we've got the Palmyra Temple, we've got the Joseph Smith home and family, the E.B. Grandin shop, the original home that they lived in. Just incredible things to experience. And it really is, I know that we have our families, and this is not minimizing the importance of going with our families. If we can take our families on the trip, that's even more wonderful because we experience it with the family and the tour. It is just kind of neat. Like Diane was saying also, we had the one family member related to Joseph and Hiram that had shared that. Sometimes we have some of those connections with people. We had Sister Kimball, Bobby. We had a person with us that was the daughter of President Kimball, and she shared experiences that she had with her father. Well, that wouldn't have ever been experienced if we hadn't have had her on the trip with us the one time.
Love it.
So the next one that we go to is we head from Palmyra down the Susquehanna River. Here we've got the church, as Wendy had said at the very first of the webinar. This is kind of exciting because, not kind of exciting, it's totally exciting. We have the new visitor center in the Susquehanna River. One of my daughters had asked us recently when she was talking about the trip and trying to do this, trying to work these things out with their family and so forth. She said, well, Dad, I don't really know. Should we go to Palmyra? Should we go to Susquehanna River? Is there much there? And I'm just like, oh, goodness, sweetheart. Standing on the banks of the Susquehanna River or walking into they have the reconstructed homes of Joseph and Emma, Isaac and Elizabeth Hale, the new statuary with the monuments there.
Well, and just something, several times we've been there and just standing on the banks before all of these sites were there, these reconstructed sites, just the spirit and the peace that we felt there. So much so, Mick has written poems through the years, and he actually has written poems for every site. One of my favorite really is the Susquehanna River, which a friend put to music. And so I'm sure he'll play that when we do that. But it's just a beautiful song about the coming forth of the restoration of the priesthood.
It's funny you say that, Diane. Our son and I, our son Cameron and I sang the song after she had put it to music. We sang that by the banks of the Susquehanna, I think.
Oh, did you?
I think we had.
Maybe you'll have to print out the music and everybody can sing it with you.
Oh, that would be awkward.
Have a choir.
Yeah, we'll have the tabernacle choir, the minimal tabernacle choir singing by the banks of the Susquehanna. No, that's.
But really, his poetry is beautiful and very insightful of the sites we're going to and the feelings of being there.
Thanks, sweetheart. From the Susquehanna River, then we head to Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls, it speaks for itself. It is just incredible to be there. We have the opportunity of going on the Maid of the Mist boat, on to Kirtland, Ohio, and the temple, everything that so many members of the church were so excited about. Just a little anecdote about this was kind of humorous. When we led one of the first tours, we got to Kirtland, and there's a wonderful man there by the name of Carl Anderson, and he's written a couple of different books. One is Joseph Smith's Kirtland, and he talks about the Kirtland Temple. And during the time that we were sitting in the temple, someone had asked Carl, or maybe it wasn't at the temple yet, it may have been in the chapel before. Anyway, somebody said, when will we get our temple back? And I loved Brother Anderson's response. He said, that is a great question. I'm not sure whose temple is it. It says on the side, the house of something, and was kind of joking about it a little facetiously, but he said, it says the house of, and somebody said, the Lord. And he goes, exactly. It is not our temple. We're grateful that the community of Christ took so much care in taking care of it and caring for it all of these years, that we have the blessing now of when the church made this acquisition of all the property in Kirtland to go in, and it's the house of the Lord still, that the caretakers for it is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
And I love going there before and feeling of that spirit there, and thankful really for all of these people from the community of Christ who have taken such great care of this building, and it's been sacred to them. But it's exciting for us to get to go back and to be led this time with missionaries that will teach us other insightful stories that we didn't hear when we were there. We're just so excited about Kirtland.
Oh, absolutely. I think that is the number one thing that we get requested is we want to go on a tour to Kirtland. And I'm like, well, do you want just Kirtland or do you want to see it all?
Yeah.
No, and there is so much, as you just said, Wendy, there is so much to see in Kirtland. You got the Asher, you got the temple, you have all of the, I mean, just even a little sidelight.
The Noel K. Whitney, going over to the...
No, exactly. In fact, the next slide, you'll see this, the next slide, all of these different things that are so improved now or upgraded, I'm not sure what is the best word. On this slide here, you have the LDS Visitor Center, the Whitney Home, the store, the Johnson Inn, the Ashery, the Sawmill. Just incredible, incredible places. You have the picture right in the middle there that has the barn type thing that's red and kind of grayish. That's the John Johnson farm where Joseph Smith received the vision of the section 76, the 3 degrees of glory. To be able to be there, and off to the right side of that, you see the upper level of the Whitney store, which is which is the School of the Prophets. And I didn't know this for a long, long period of time, that one of the first things that they would do when a person became a member of the School of Prophets is they would do the ordinance of the washing of the feet.
Wow.
And they would do that in the upper room there. And so you go into some of these places and you think, oh, that's kind of cool. We're going to the Noel K. Whitney store. And then you walk upstairs, and sometimes, honestly, it's not just the place. It's not just, oh, I walked in the Noel K. Whitney store or whatever. It's just bringing back the memory or the thoughts of what transpired there.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think to be in that room, what a sacred spot, and thinking about these men, these early church history of the restoration who were in that room being taught and instructed. I think that's amazing. And then to sit there and think about how Emma was scrubbing, the tobacco off the floor, and that was something where
it gives you a visual.
Yes.
Yes. And when you look on the wood floor and you're going, okay, Emma was having to scrub this because of the men chewing their tobacco, and all of a sudden section 89 is received. And there again, it's just those things that we try to bring together in the tour that helps gain even a little more perspective of what transpired, how it happened, different things there. Diane has a quote here that I'd like her to share about that Elder Ballard shared.
So this was way back in like 1995. He had gone with his family, and that would have been the bicentennial year. So I'm sure that's why he did. He went with his family. He has 7 children. So they went with their spouses, his wife, grandchildren, I think about 20 of them. And they went probably this whole tour. But he talked about this experience, and he said, visiting those inspirational sites and immersing ourselves as a family in the events of the restoration reminded me again of the marvelous privilege we have to live in a day where we have such clear doctrinal understanding of our Heavenly Father's plan for the salvation and exaltation of his children. The clarity of our relationship to the Lord Jesus Christ and his restored church is precious, empowering knowledge for each one of us. I thank God that in these difficult days of moral decay and departure from sound values, we have no shortage of revealed truth to guide our lives. I really love that, because immersing yourself, like we've talked about before, you don't have to go to those sites to learn about them and just reading about them, but immersing yourself in that. I think that's what a tour does for you, is you're in there and you feel some of those feelings like, oh, they would have done this. Oh, how could they possibly? I think it gives us a greater appreciation for them, but also following along as we're, doing Come Follow Me this year. And as we'll talk about some of these different visions and revelations that are received, we're in those sites, and it just makes it just more full.
One of the things, Wendy, that we love doing with the tours that is critical in these locations is, like Diane just said, to be able to go through, to process. So we're at the MTC right now in a branch presidency, serving there with the missionaries. And every Tuesday night, we have a general authority come, and then we go aside with the missionaries for 30 minutes and process with them. What did they learn? What touched their hearts? How will they apply it in the mission field and stuff? We do that on Tuesday nights. Thursday nights, we have the opportunity to meet with them. But then on Sundays, we also have about 30 minutes time with them processing. And that's what we love with the tours, of being able to climb on the bus after going to these sites and just saying, did anybody have just a sweet experience that, if it's not too personal, that you could share with us?
I love that. That is so great.
Yeah, those are just great experiences. And so from Kirtland here,
just really quick, I just want to say on that.
Oh, sorry.
For every one of the tours we've done, and even personal ones we've been on, there have been members of the traveling group with us who has shared something that still to this day, I remember that. And it's been something that's helped me in my life in putting things in perspective based on something they shared.
Thanks, sweetheart. Thank you. The next place that we go to is kind of a different trip on this one. Instead of driving hours and hours to go from Kirtland all the way down, we go to the Cleveland airport, climb on a plane, fly to Kansas City, which then allows us to be straight down to Kansas City, Independence. And there again, once again, we now have the the Liberty Jail. And this is kind of a different temple experience. Joseph, down in the Liberty Jail, received section 121, 22, and 23. Incredible experiences in which he became acclimated, more knowledgeable about his relationship with Jesus Christ in suffering as he did. And all of a sudden we can relate that to ourselves as we go there, and we think, he referred to this as his temple prison. And I wonder how often in our lives we go through an experience that is so hard and so hard to bear, and we're just like, I don't even know whether I can make it through this. And all of a sudden we make it through that experience, and we look back, and though we would not want to go back and relive that, our relationship with the Savior was magnified because of that challenge that we had.
Absolutely. I think this is such a sacred place. Again, another temple without a steeple, and just a beautiful opportunity.
And as you say that, it's sometimes we look at these things and we're like, okay, how is that a temple? All the deprivation that he experienced, all the challenges he experienced, and yet I know that Joseph would not say, hey, put me back there again. I wouldn't. Something that this is just an experience that I'll just very quickly share that we hadn't shared at the very first. We served as mission leaders we were called, we only had 2 weeks to prepare. That's something we could share later on, but we were called as mission leaders. So we served in Scottsdale, Arizona from October of 2020 until June 30th of 2023. And that was one of the hardest, if not the hardest experience I've ever had in my life as a mission president. But my experience there always turned me to the Savior. I had to rely on the Savior. And so with that, missionaries asked me towards the end of the mission, would you want to sign up again for another 3 years as a mission president? Nope, I'm good. And yet I would go back and do it in a heartbeat. If the church called me now and said, hey, we'd like you to come back and serve, we need you to serve again, Diane and I'd just be like, okay. And we would be better off because of what we learned from the experiences.
Yeah, definitely. And it was really through those challenging, hard times that we really, like Mick said, came to know the Lord better and have a greater relationship with our Savior. Mm-hmm. And we both have come away with stronger testimonies from that. And so just a glimpse of maybe what Joseph Smith felt. We didn't experience that to that degree, but we understand the refining process that happens when you're in a situation.
So then we go from there, and we spend some time in the Liberty, Carthage. I haven't even gotten there yet. We do far west, Adamandiaman, Nauvoo, far west, right in the middle, bottom part with the flag. That's wonderful. They have these monuments there of the events that occurred. In the field right to the south side of the Kirtland, of the far west temple site, is a place where I gleaned. I was out there one day just walking through the field. It's a cornfield. And all of a sudden I looked down on the ground and started picking up these shards of pottery, glassware, ceramics, things like that were broken in the ground. And I picked it up, and I've actually contacted the church about that. But we walk in these sacred locations. Up in the top left there, you see the picture of the Kansas City Temple. Diane and I have been there. It's beautiful. And it's, just in these places. And yet off to the right side, you see the picture there of the Adamandiaman. Adamandiaman is just incredible. On the lower road, and I can't point it out to you there, but on the lower road, Diane and I had an opportunity years ago when I was involved Seminary and Institute, and we lived back in that area. We had a meeting there. Oh my goodness, it was incredible. At one point, they said to all of us as couples, go ahead and take some personal time now, about an hour, and just do whatever you would like here at Adamandiaman. We walked down on the lower road, and part of the way in the valley, as we were there, and this was just sweet and sacred, and I just share it. I hope it's okay to share it here. We knelt down on that lower road and offered a prayer on behalf of our family. I just prayed that each of our children at that time, all of our family members would be watched over, would stay strong in the gospel, and literally just there prayed for our family. And that's been one of those memories, like Diane and I have said, that just never goes from your mind. It took 15 minutes or whatever to offer the prayer, to be down there and then just talk about some different things. And yet I'll never forget that moment with Diane and me.
Oh, it sounds incredibly tender.
So from there, then we have that opportunity. Oh, and you think this great sacrament building down in the highlighted section right below Adamandiaman, Moroni, Elias, John the Baptist, Elijah, Joseph, Jacob, Isaac, Abraham, Adam, Michael, Peter, James, John, and many others will gather together there at Adamandiaman, according to section 27, for this great sacrament meeting that will take place there. That would be just an incredible, incredible opportunity. From there, then, at the last of this slide shows, as we go on to Nauvoo, we'll travel by bus to Nauvoo. Nauvoo is, oh goodness, I just don't even know how to describe Nauvoo right now. You see up there, and there again with the acquisition that the church made from the community of Christ. Joseph Smith's homestead, the grave sites, Joseph, Emma, and Hiram, the mansion house, the red brick store, everything. You see all these different pictures right here that I just pointed to again. The mansion house. Oh, we love Nauvoo, and I haven't even.
No, the spirit of Nauvoo is amazing. But to me, it's so exciting that the General Relief Society presidency will be meeting in the Red Brick Store in March, that all of the Relief Society sisters will be able to watch. And Elder Renland, I think, is the one who will be with them. But that's exciting to me that church leaders will have been there, and then we'll be there a couple of months, 6 weeks later or something, in this incredible spot. I also, there were all the great things that happened, but there were also really hard things that happened. And then after all the saints, as they were beginning to leave, Lucy Mack Smith was too old to go, and Emma stayed with her. And one of the sweet places I experienced one time was going into that little home of Lucy Mack Smith and thinking about Emma caring for her. Just a sweet place. And you get to know the people in Nauvoo who were more people of the Restoration.
Oh, absolutely. I think there is a wonderful spirit. There's an energy there that you feel, that you just know that the significance of it.
Yeah.
We stay in a little bit of time in Nauvoo. We also have the opportunity to then, as you see on this slide, to go to the Nauvoo Cemetery. We'll also take some time to go over to the Carthage Jail. There you have the Nauvoo Temple, and then the Trail of Hope down in the middle bottom section. Each of these things are just sweet, tender, hallowed ground for us. Even to stand in the Carthage Jail to stand there and to feel the spirit that exists of Joseph and Hiram and them offering their lives, it is just truly hallowed ground, temples without spires on all of these places. Even walking the trail of hope, walking that trail and heading down towards the Susquehanna, heading down towards Susquehanna. I moved the river.
A little bit different.
Walking down the trail. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Let me do this here. This is just so tender to us. I'll switch it to the next slide. This is one of the poems that Diane had talked about that I had written about walking down Parley Street, which is the trail of hope. I don't know whether you want me to read that poem or.
I was going to say, I would actually love for you to read it.
So like Diane said, I love to write poems, and a lot of the poems that I've written through the years have been about the church history sites or about my relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. So on this one, as I was walking, just the background on that, as I was walking down Parley Street, I thought about these feelings that so many people had as they were having, not willfully in many situations, or they had to go. There was no other option. And so with that in mind, looking back at the temple and having to leave the temple there, I have a family member that received their endowment on the 25th of December and then had to leave shortly thereafter because they were driven out of the city. So I think about my ancestry. Anyway, he walked along down Parley Street and came to the river's side and turned and gazed at old Nauvoo with tears he could not hide. He thought of all that he'd been through. His heart had shake and quiver, but now he knew the time had come to go and cross the river. The land he'd loved so dearly was now lost again. He knew he'd leave behind this place called home, his beautiful Nauvoo. He thought of all he'd sacrificed, that God would him deliver, but now he realized that he must just go and cross the river. He saw the temple steadfast there, and in the sun it glistened. Now he, endowed with power on high, to the prophet's voice he listened. He thought of all that God had granted him, and though he felt the shiver, yet still he knew God would lead him on, so he must cross the river. Now voices past still speak to me of faithful saints gone by, who left behind so willingly and followed God on high. And so it falls on us today, if our faith is but a sliver, that we must walk to water's edge and go and cross the river. We see the temple steadfast there, and in the sun it glistens, and now endowed with power on high, to the prophet's voice we listen, and think of all that God has granted us. And though we feel the shiver, yet still we know that God will lead us on, so we must cross the river. Now,
Mick, that is amazing.
Thank you very much. It was very, very tender to me. That was hard to get through. It just.
I'm impressed you did.
Mick has an ancestor, a woman who wasn't she like in her 90s or something? Yeah. And she actually crossed the river and she died on the other side. And the account says that she's buried in her calico dress and apron on the other side.
On the banks of the river.
Oh, wow. Wow. And, I think there are so many church members who can trace their pioneer legacy back. And this is their opportunity to pay homage to their legacy that they have. It's one thing to, to build your testimony, strengthen, but when it becomes family, when you get to do the legacy where you get to return to where your families were. Yeah. That is such a unique experience. We did that at the cemetery there in Nauvoo and found some family grave sites there. And again, it's just connecting all the dots, right?
Yeah. And it's great in Nauvoo. They have a family history center that you can go in, and if you have a pioneer name, they will help you look it up and they can give you information of where they lived in Nauvoo, or
absolutely.
So that's a fun thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The last one then, as we finish up on this, Wendy, thanks for taking so much time with us. We go to Hannibal. We have a chance to go on a riverboat, and that's towards the latter part of our tour. And finally, we just finish off there and are able to just go on and get on the plane and fly home.
and fly home, as we say, with memories to last a lifetime.
Yes.
I mean, it's a fun way to end the tour. It's so many people, being on the Mississippi River. Mark Twain had so much amazing literature. So some of his fun little quips and things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fun little town to go and see, and it just kind of brings the whole experience to an end. Like you say, it is a trip through the restoration. From we say from the first vision all the way through to the martyrdom, and what a unique experience. There's so much I want to say, having experienced this both in person and on tours, just knowing the blessings that are there. This being a special area of study this year, just with it just being there. One of the things that I guess I will end on, and just again, the benefits of doing this with a group, and especially with somebody like you. When you go with your family, it is just with you guys in your car. It's great to have those private moments, which we also like to try to find private moments for families and couples together. Like Mick, you said you experienced in Andaman. But I think somebody shared with me once, they said the best thing about being with this group is I don't have to argue with everybody on what's for dinner tonight, because we've already got, you guys have this figured out. I just have to get my group there, my family there. And then I get to sit there with my wife. And instead of thinking about, do I have to get gas in the car? Where are we staying tonight? How long is it going to take us to get there? All these logistic things. He was just there with his family in the moment. And I guess that's probably one of the best things that we can end on is this is a unique experience. It's a special time, being a year of study. It's a special time on the calendar, being in this beautiful spring atmosphere, being with such wonderful teachers who can bring these sites to life for you and build special opportunities. So whether you're going by yourself, whether you're going with friends, couples, families, there will be a perfect moment that you will experience on this tour. So Mick and Diane, again, thank you for sharing this.
You're welcome.
I'm so excited for everybody who is planning on going with you. And you see the information here on the screen with the website and the phone number. Please give us a call. Let us answer any questions for you. Please get your reservations in early. Groups do need a specific number of people to make these things happen. We are just loving the opportunity to do this with you this year. It's a special time, special year, and we are grateful for you guys spending this time with us. So thank you so much, Mick and Diane. Thank you for watching. And we hope to see you on tour. And until then, safe travels. And I don't know how to say goodbye in early Pioneer. So until we meet again.
God be with you till we meet again. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank
We love and
you.
appreciate you, and we hope to see all of you come on the tour with us. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.